Porco Rosso is a 1992 animated adventure film by Studio Ghibli that tells the story of Porco, an ex-military fighter pilot who now makes his way as a bounty hunter. Oh, also he's been transformed into a pig by a mysterious curse, but we'll get to that. The film was directed by Ghibli's golden boy Hayao Miyazaki, who is responsible for the majority of Ghibli's classics and combined his well-known love of flying and pigs to their inevitable conclusions. Despite this, it doesn't at first glance seem really to fit in with the rest of Ghibli's catalog, as it diverges from the sort of slow, slice-of-life stories that Ghibli excels at making. There are other movies of theirs that do this, such as Princess Mononoke or Poco, but even then, a pig fighter pilot is a much sillier idea than stories about animals trying desperately to defend their homeland, even if in one of them the animals are using their genitals to attack people. I can't wait to watch Poco, it sounds really cool. But the thing is, although Porco Rosso is a fun and relatively happy movie, what lies beneath the surface is a sad story about depression, self-hatred, and survivor's guilt. So I wanted to take a clearer look at why Porco is a pig and what this means. I'm the Singing Hawk, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so of course you can say that Porco is a pig because a curse turned him into one. Case closed. But the real meaning is much deeper than that. We never see this curse happening to Porco, even in a flashback sequence, and it's only mentioned about twice in the film, both times really offhandedly. People just accept that he's a pig without so much as blinking. All this goes to say that there's a real reason why Porco was turned into a pig of all things. It serves as symbolism for who he is and was carefully chosen for the character. Not just being chosen because Miyazaki liked pigs. Curse isn't important, the characterization is. So how does Porco act like a pig? Well, it's partly, even mostly, because he only really thinks for himself. The whole reason for the curse, why he was turned into a pig, was because he flew selfishly in a dogfight and didn't look out for any of his friends, allowing them to die. Flash forward, and Porco still really only thinks of himself, being a bounty hunter who only fights for his own gain rather than helping others or joining the military. It's the kind of work that allows him, even rewards him for putting himself first, like even in the movie's first sequence where he lets a crew of pirates get away with enough money for repairs because he says he'd hate to put them out of business. Porco was hired to take these guys down in the first place because they not only stole from others, but had taken a group of schoolgirls as hostages. But rather than stopping them and possibly preventing more actions like this in the future, he decides to let them go because stopping them would be bad for his business. That's obviously incredibly selfish, and what's worse, this movie just brushes past this as an incident that's fairly normal for Porco. Now, if you wanted to, there is an argument to be made that Porco's job as a bounty hunter makes him a pig in the eyes of society, literally and figuratively, because he isn't fighting for the government anymore and instead embraces the look-out-for-yourself philosophy that is so opposed to communism. People may view this as selfish because of it, when in reality he just doesn't want to be a government stooge. Better a pig than a fascist. However, for me, this argument doesn't hold a ton of weight, since almost every other character we meet in the story works against the government in some way or another, and they aren't pigs. In fact, in the climax, there's a hilarious sequence where they all have to leave quickly to escape the authorities because literally everyone there is in trouble with the government. Instead, he's a pig because he's ashamed of his own selfish lifestyle. He believes himself to be a selfish, no-good pig, so that's what he is. Porco despises himself because in his mind he let his friend Bernelli die by flying only for himself. What's more, he believes that a pig is all he will ever be, that he's incapable of any type of change. Several times throughout the film, he says a variation of the line, "Can't help it, I'm a pig," as another way of saying, "I'm awful, get over it." He's a pig because deep down he believes he's that awful. So, of course, the curse is only broken when Fio puts her trust in him and makes it clear how much she reveres him. When she first talks about breaking his curse by kissing him, like the story about the handsome prince, Porco says to save it for someone special, because he doesn't think he's someone who's worthy of a fairy tale ending like that, doesn't think he deserves love. He's not a handsome prince in his eyes. He's a pig who only thinks for himself. Even when Fio tells him that he's a great person, Porco can't accept this, saying that the real heroes were the ones who died in the war. Maybe that forcing him to live on Earth is the same thing as hell. It showcases just how much he hates himself, that he truly believes he's deserving of hell because he's been a little selfish. This survivor's guilt that he carries with him cripples him, destroying whatever pride he might have carried, making him believe he's a pig, even when the rest of the world never treats him as such. So when Theo kisses him at the end, it breaks his curse because it restores his faith in himself and lets him know that, at least in her eyes, he is someone worth saving. And isn't he? He flew only for Theo. He could have very well have just left the night before the competition. He didn't think of himself. He thought and acted for her. Porco Rosso is a pretty solid film. I've seen it tossed around as one of Ghibli's most underrated works along with Palm Poco, and I agree for the most part. It's plot-focused, which is kind of jarring for Ghibli, but definitely welcome for me. However, the story goes much deeper than one might think, and that's why it really stuck with me. After this and BoJack Horseman, maybe I just have a thing for stories about anthropomorphic characters with deep self-hatred. So here's to Porco Rosso, a true man.